Hey, everybody, welcome on back. This is the You Gotta Try This podcast featuring Large. If you see right away, if you're watching us on YouTube or any other video platform, we are not in our regular studio. That is because there is some big time street construction right outside of the studio where we normally tape. So I had to move into Brianna's BFF studio, into Brianna's studio where she does multiple things. So a little bit different look for me today. I feel pretty. I don't know what sexy.
You look good.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, the new shoes.
Yeah. So
Shoes.
this is the 4th of July episode for You Gotta Try This. A lot of people do best ofs when it comes to 4th of July. We don't have that many episodes, so why would I do a best of? So if I'm going to do a 4th of July episode, we're going to talk about 4th of July food, and this is probably going to be the most patriotic episode that we have just by default because it's the 4th of July. I think one of the most patriotic people that I know is Cons. I've had Cons on before when we did the Rocco's Dry Aging steakhouse trip.
And I thought you could just run that as your best of because that was your best episode.
Yes, obviously. And we had to do that episode in the restaurant, so it wasn't a traditional shoot either way. So I haven't done an episode with Cons in the studio per se, but this is the second time that we're having Cons on the program, so I appreciate that. For people who aren't familiar with Captain Cons, Connor Crean, he was a captain, right? You're captain,
yeah, captain, yeah,
in the U.S. Army. He was one of the co-hosts of Zero Blog 30, which stopped last year, and Cons immediately picked up the mantle, and he's running still a veteran-centric podcast called Bold American. He's in the office today because he has a high-powered guest from the U.S. government coming in, which is scary. I think Secret Service was in here yesterday, right?
And they're going to be here today, yeah.
Yeah,
so that'll tell you what level it is that we're interviewing.
Right.
And this will obviously come out after that interview.
Yes.
It's the Secretary of Veterans Affairs.
Yeah, so that's a big get.
It's a massive get.
Yeah. It's weird because in this day and age, having something that's even remotely saying, oh, this is going to be our most patriotic episode to date, it's almost like people have to tread lightly a little bit. I don't feel that way. Like we're going, this is the 4th of July. This is the 4th of July episode. And the 4th of July is one of the good things about being American, right? Like if you can't put politics aside to watch overpriced fireworks and have way too many fucking hot dogs, I don't know what you're looking to do in life, right? Mm-hmm. So the 4th of July to me has never had, and it shouldn't for anyone, negative connotations unless you're British maybe and you were born in the late 1700s.
Yeah.
But outside of that, no one can be butthurt, I don't think, about this. So anyway, Captain Cons is in the house. Check out Bold American. It drops weekly. As he had mentioned before, we're pre-taping this, so it's a couple of weeks before the 4th of July, so you will have already have heard the Tracks of My Tears with the Mexico trip. You will already have heard my sit-down with Rico Bosco, and now you're about to go into a 4th of July weekend for the ages, and hopefully you're doing it with You Gotta Try This. Before we get started, Ian's not here today. He will be in a little bit, but he also does stuff with Roan.com. So with timing wise, I had to get in while Roan.com was doing their live stream, but he'll be back in a couple of seconds. I am a technical idiot. So is Cons. And nothing gets done here without our group in the tech booth.
Yeah.
So, today it was Jason, but there are multiple people they are the most capable part of Barstool. They are without a shadow of a doubt. They're very good salespeople. They're very good content people. They're very good everything here at Barstool, and some not so good, right? Just like every other company. Those guys are the top of they're the cream of the crop.
Yeah, they're incredibly professional, always willing to help. And
is it Tinny?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're getting Tinny? Yeah. So, yeah, I think that those guys at the drop of a hat, and then Manoli comes in. Manoli shoots for us when we go on location. He's helping out Ian because Ian's new to this producing job. So Manoli, I hate him. We work together at Rubbin' Racing. He's my favorite Greek. So also, like, this stuff doesn't get made without the help of those guys. So big shout out to them. That's it. Let's get into it. So a little bit of a follow-up. A couple of weeks ago, I had almost complained. I'm a Dr. Pepper guy. I don't mind Dr. Pepper. I like the original, but I was surprised that Dr. Pepper has like 15 different flavors now. I went down the list of all these different flavors. Some of them were pretty appealing. Some of them I thought were just like superfluous and unnecessary, but that's me. And then almost every one of the big flavors, they also have in a zero sugar option.
Right.
Just like every other soda on the market today, there's a zero sugar option that brings in some space age chemicals that makes it delicious without having sugar. I said that that's a little bit too much overkill. Some people have told me to mind my business, and that's fine. Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar recall upgraded as FDA warns serious health risk for diabetics. Mislabeled cans containing full sugar could pose dangers for diabetics. The FDA and Dr. Pepper announced a voluntary recall of 19,000 cases of Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. So this is my thing. When you have an elite brand like Dr. Pepper, maybe do a couple other bullshit ones. Having 13 to 15 different flavors of Dr. Pepper will come back and bite you in the ass. That was the point I made. I'm not happy that somebody went into some sort of diabetic shock because of this, perhaps. Believe me, these aren't sweet grapes, sour grapes. I went sweet grapes. But it just maybe the best doctors are specialists.
Yes.
Right? Dr. Pepper is a general practitioner. Maybe he should kind of bring it in a little bit and make it as something. That's just a follow-up to something I spoke about a couple of weeks ago. Cons, how are we doing, brother?
Doing very well. I am gearing up as we are celebrating the 4th of July for my second child that's coming next month. So that is interesting because obviously everything changes when you go from 1 to 2.
Yep.
And I don't know, like
go from zone to man.
Right. You know, what I found being a parent, and by no means am I an expert, and anybody who pretends to be is lying to you.
Correct.
That's why I think all these parenting experts out there should rebrand themselves as, you know, parenting helpers. It's like, hey, here's what worked for me, because what you know, every child is different. And what works for one, even in the same family, may not work for the second one. So I'm not getting overly worked up that I'm going to be lost in the sauce, because guess what? Give it a few hours, we'll figure that kid out too. So overall, I'm just very excited and looking forward to having that. I'm also looking forward to having my wife back, in the sense that she is a monster foodie.
Yeah.
Loves restaurants.
Good cook.
Amazing cook.
Yep.
We, this pregnancy, have done like a tour de force of New Jersey restaurants that are on the upper echelon, because she had nothing else to look forward to. But one of the things I love doing with my wife is really enjoying a meal and, you know, having a good bottle of wine. So I'll enjoy having her back for that when it comes time.
That's a good way of saying, I can't wait for her to lose the baby weight, because you can't say that out loud. So instead you got to justify it with your functioning alcoholism. I do echo that sentiment as far as parenting experts, because being a guy who's raised 3 kids, and so far I've managed to keep them all off the pole and out of rehab, as far as I know, there is no fucking roadmap. No. And, you know, I have little gems and nuggets that I can share with people, particularly when we were doing Podfathers, but it's just more.
I wish there was a parenting podcast.
I know. Yeah. But it's one of those things where I think more just the experiences that maybe you can use. I tell the story on this podcast all the time about my buddy, Joe, whose son is his name. So his son, from a very young age, was like a real rare steak eater. Like even when Mick was like 5, this kid would come by barbecue. He'd want it medium rare. The kid had a real good palate. Yeah. So the dad's like, what can I do every year for this kid for his birthday that'd be special? And I said, take him to a steakhouse. So ever since they were 5, him and his dad been going to a different steakhouse every year, something they can do until the dad is 85, you know, because you won't run out of places. And you can also, no matter where in the world, you know, your son and you can make a point of getting together at some point, maybe not on his birthday or your birthday, but at some point when you see him during the year, and you can get away from his wife, his kids, your wife, your family, just have a steak with your boy.
Yeah.
I like those type of things. To me, are not necessarily me teaching people how to be parents, just giving them ideas.
That's just a great idea.
Yes.
That is a great idea that can easily be replicated by anybody.
Right. And like, let's say you're daughter or your son is a Chinese food freak.
Sure.
You can go out for like a Chinese restaurant to a different cool place just in Jersey for the next 50 years. Like, I think if you can make those
Traditions?
Customs, traditions around food, every tradition is better when it's around. That's where the Jews get it right. They tried to kill us. They couldn't. Let's eat every Jewish holiday. And to me, I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yes.
Give me some fucking brisket.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I just think that that's the reason that we're doing the podcast. I can't tell you how many people I've come in here and I've asked the same questions to. I'm trying to put together that list of questions. I'm going to try a couple on you. Mm-hmm. Cons is also a guinea pig for me. Like I really don't have to prepare too much when you come in.
No.
And you're a guinea pig for just kind of talking about food, culture, and anything you put in your mouth. I will tell you a quick parenting story. I was taking a dump. Mick must have been, even my oldest son is named Mick. I don't know how old he was. Let's say 3 or 4 years old. He runs in while I'm taking a dump. Yeah. Because there is no privacy when you're a kid, when you're a parent.
That's one of the funny things I've learned.
My wife would never. Yeah, it's right into you. And he said, Dad, what are these for? And he was pointing to his testicles.
Sure.
So I was like, oh, Mick, go ask your mother. He's like, no, I did. She said to come up and ask you. I said, oh, okay, fucking thanks. And I didn't know what to say to him, but the little kid is standing there. I'm like, hey, Mick, the part? He's like, yeah, my pee-pee. I'm like, yeah, the stalk is your penis. I was like, that's the flashlight. Those things you're pointing to, your testicles, those are the batteries.
That's a great answer.
I never had to talk to him about that again.
Fantastic.
So he knows nothing about the birds and the bees.
No, but his batteries are charged. Yeah, he's ready to go.
He knows he has a battery-powered cock.
Yeah.
That's, ready to go.
He's ready to go down there at University of Alabama.
Yeah. One of the things that we try to do every week is we try to mix in, because I also do the Twisted History podcast, we try to do a little bit of history alongside talking about food. So before we get into the 4th of July edition, why July 4th? We grew up thinking that July 4th, at least I was taught, that was the actual day where a bunch of guys in wigs sat down and signed the Declaration of Independence, which essentially said the colonies were no longer under British rule. That's what I think most textbooks taught. That's what most people believe. And it's not the worst lie that's ever been told.
Right.
But it's just not true. So the formal signing by all the delegates actually occurred on August 2nd. That's not even close.
Okay.
That's not even close to July 4th.
No.
But the document was adopted on July 4th, which is also a little bit deceiving, because even though the document was adopted on July 4th, the resolution for independence was passed on July 2nd, and then the formal document was adopted on July 4th. Mm-hmm. But the night of the 2nd, the Pennsylvania Evening Post, which was a huge newspaper back then, I think there were only 3, so It didn't take a lot to be huge, published this statement. This day, July the 2nd, 1776, the Continental Congress declared the United Colonies free and independent states. That seems like that would make it the day.
Right.
Like that's the day it hit the tape, to use a Wall Street expression.
Yeah.
We decided to go with July 4th. So I will ask you, as a guy that enjoys the 4th of July, enjoys most things summer, I wouldn't even posit a guess that summer is your favorite season, because you're such a college football guy that I think fall. Fall's got to be it. But you are a summer guy.
Oh, absolutely. I embrace the heck out of the summer.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What would you rather? Would you rather July 2nd and July 4th doesn't make any fucking difference. If it all of a sudden was the 2nd July versus the 4th of July, but for some reason now, after learning this little factoid about the lies that have been pushed to us, would you rather August 2nd than July 4th? For the holiday?
No, for the sake of the holiday, no, because I think it's obviously very well positioned right there, smack dab in the middle of the summer, and it's just a good benchmark.
Is it too close to Memorial Day?
No, I don't think so. I think, because also now, especially in Jersey, Memorial Day, it's such a crapshoot with the weather, where it could be, and it was this year, cold, rainy, and it was not enjoyable. Whereas July 4th, more or less, I mean, you might get a rogue thunderstorm, but it's hot. It's very firmly entrenched in summer. So I like it.
I'm trying to be devil's advocate with it. Isn't it more guaranteed hot on August 2nd than July 4th? For beach guys, for people, I mean, I don't like the heat. You've seen me on a golf course in the heat. I'm fucking miserable.
Yeah.
So I would prefer it to be as early or late this season as possible.
Sure.
But try to get out of that fucking mindset that July 4th is July 4th. If it was since the day of your birth, August 2nd, I don't know. I'm trying to think maybe it would be better, but you're saying because it front ends the holiday season.
I think it fits. It's pretty equidistant between Memorial Day, Labor Day.
Yeah, we get them pushing it towards,
It's almost like, summer is Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day.
Right.
And it's anchored by those three holidays. So if July 4th was shifted one way or the other.
Then it's not beginning, middle, end.
Yes, it kind of skews it.
Yeah.
I like it. It's very, what is the word? Starts with an S when everything is
symmetrical.
Symmetrical, thank you.
Right. Who knew the Founding Fathers had that in their bag? That over 200 years later, we're going to all of a sudden have this thing. And so, by the way, you may hear people come in and out of this podcast while we're doing it because we're shooting while the dozen is taping. So the office is empty. It's very good. This politician's coming in today because he doesn't have to deal with like maybe Frank yelling at him.
Oh my God.
Or something like that. Yeah. So you may hear some stuff coming in and out, but I will tell you it's 10 times better than what we had in the other podcast studio because I felt like I was on a construction site. What about there were no 4th of July fireworks in 1776.
Sure.
Even when this was declared on July 2nd, even when this was adopted on July 4th, even when the final signatures went on in and around August 2nd, there were no fireworks lit off. Fireworks existed at the time. Fireworks existed since 200 BC in China. But the first fireworks celebration for the 4th of July was in 1777. So they were lighting them off like crazy on 1777, July 4th, and it's continued since then. I was a huge fireworks guy for a long time.
Yes.
I'm no longer a fireworks guy. It's just become more of a hassle for me. And I don't mean going to see them. I've never been a huge go to see fireworks. It's something that just happens. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's cool. Like at the end of a NASCAR race, if they start shooting out shit, obviously I like intros to wrestling and whatnot, but I'm not as much, let's make that run to Pennsylvania and buy illegal fireworks and light them off until the cops come.
Sure.
That was me for a long fucking time. I've gone the other way. And I think it's because my kids got older. You think you're going to be a fireworks guy?
I think so, absolutely. Because I was always a fireworks guy growing up as a kid. When I was anywhere from 8 to 16 or whatever, and get your hands on them. And then being an artillery guy in the Army, explosions are always cool. So I think that's the appeal, though, right? When you have kids and you can go to the fireworks shows. Like for me, the Macy's fireworks right now, doesn't have much of an appeal. I don't stop what I'm doing. I don't make it a point to say oh, I need to go see those fireworks or I need to go see fireworks anywhere. But I think once I have children of an age where that's something that we will go do on the 4th of July, I think it'll come back around. And I also like to think that, yes, given the fact that my wife is from Pennsylvania and we travel there, enough. I was like, maybe I got to stop at this store and get some fireworks for the kids.
It's tempting. I know I'm
going to get yelled at for it, but
I'm whatever. A frequent pyro.
Yeah.
That's the frequent pyro is the club for Keystone Fireworks, which I think is in Matamoros, Pennsylvania. So I go there and that's where I load up. And even Finn would come with me, my son. And I'd keep the sunroof open. I'd be like, look for helicopters, Finn, because they follow you out. And then once you cross the Jersey, so all of a sudden he was doing that and he was, and he was quiet for the hour and a half.
Yoda and Goodfellas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then we stop at A&W for a fucking float and then we go home. So there are like those traditions.
Maybe that's a tradition too. It's like, hey, July 2nd, we got to go to Pennsylvania and get the fireworks for the barbecue on the 4th.
Something like that. And I think it's one of those things where if you start to build that type of shit, these kids remember.
Yeah. Because also, just over the border, I'm pretty sure it's in Bethlehem, PA. No free ads. Cigars International has their big warehouse right there.
Yeah.
Showroom that you could go in.
Right.
So you can kind of make it a 2-for-1. There's also a
strip club. Oh, I'm sorry. What were you saying?
Camping World or Bass Pro Shop. Right
which is cool as shit.
Yeah.
We passed those on the way out to Hershey.
Right.
Which you're going to get intimately involved with.
We went to Hershey last year for the first time. I'd never been to Hershey.
It's nice.
It was great.
Yeah.
It was great. It was in between Christmas and New Year's. When the kids are out of school.
Right.
It was something to do. And we went with another family that we've now done a few trips with.
Where'd you stay?
We stayed at the Hershey Lodge.
Okay.
Yeah. And it has the indoor, pool that's absolutely disgusting, but you just suck it up and take it for what it is.
I will tell you right now. So here's another parenting tip from a parenting expert. The Hershey Lodge is good when you're going with a bunch of kids and whatnot. But when you step up and go to Hershey Hotel, Hershey Hotel is a very nice hotel.
Yeah.
And I haven't been there now in maybe 3 years because kids obviously are older. But when Bridget was 12, I could see that I would have been there. I'd go back with them tomorrow. I like the Hershey Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
It's comfortable, but it's fine dining. You know, you're in Hershey, Pennsylvania, right? Yeah, it's fine dining-ish. But compared to the Lodge,
yes,
where every character is in a hockey jersey and all that kind of stuff, and you feel like you're in a Great Wolf Lodge.
Yes,
a little bit. Hershey Hotel, you do feel like you're staying more so in a resort, and you're right across the street from the park. The Lodge is a little bit further away, so when the kids get to be ride age, you just go right in and out.
Exactly.
You get the cabana at the water park like a gentleman, obviously, because you have that type of stuff. So that's it. So I am telling you right now, no fireworks on the first 4th of July. I'm telling you right now, the 4th of July really is an arbitrary date. I'm telling you all of these lies, and I'm debunking all of these things about the 4th of July. What is true about the 4th? And it is that story about John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. So the second and third presidents of the United States, respectfully, think about this. And it should be something everyone already knows, but maybe you don't. They both died on the same 4th of July. On July 4th, 1826, 50 years to the day since that first 4th of July, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson died within hours of each other. Yeah. Thomas Jefferson was John Adams' vice president, then became president. So these guys were there. And then 50 years after that first July 4th, they both die on the same day.
Well, I think that goes to what I always found to be fascinating about the founding fathers is you look at pictures in a textbook growing up and you think about adults and you just assume like, oh, these guys, they were like full-blown adults, really old. And then you look at their ages when they signed the Declaration of Independence.
They were youngsters.
Like young 20s.
Yes.
Like think about compare your son.
Yes.
And then it's like, do you think he's of an age and all his buddies that they should be signing something of that magnitude?
We put an air tag in his wallet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He's lost his wallet twice while in college.
And I mean, obviously it lends itself to, life expectancy was much shorter back then, but nevertheless, you grew up a lot faster centuries ago. And it's interesting to think about a 23-year-old now versus a 23-year-old signing the Declaration of Independence.
It's unbelievable that the fate of our nation or the path of our nation was built on documents that were written by people who were in their 20s.
Yes. That are still obviously referenced in our laws today.
But you mentioned that life and believe me, this is just a little bit of history to start it off. We'll get into whatever we want to put in our mouths. Do you know? So John Adams, when he died on July 4th, 1826, at 6:20 p.m. of a heart attack. He was 90 years old.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
That's bucking the system.
Yes.
As you say. And as a matter of fact, he was the oldest living, he was the president who lived the longest, not obviously the oldest reigning president or whatever you want to say. He lived the longest out of any president all the way up to Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan then lived to 92. And then Ronald Reagan got cucked by H, who lived to 93.
Yes.
And then they both got cucked by Jimmy Carter, who passed away last year at 100. Yeah. He passed away, I think, in December of last year.
Yes.
So if you think about that, John Adams, second president of the United States, had a run up until Reagan as lasting the longest, which tells you just how young a lot of these people had died back then. And he died of a heart attack. John Adams died of a heart attack. Thomas Jefferson, who died on the same day, as I just told you, he was 83. Thomas Jefferson made it to 83. That's my dad's age. Yeah, and people mention that my dad is actually bucking the trend. Yeah. So I think the average life expectancy now is 78 or something like that, which fucking annoys me.
Thomas Jefferson, massive wine connoisseur.
He died from a combination of ailments, including exhaustion from intense diarrhea, toxemia from a kidney infection, uremia from kidney damage, orthostatic old age pneumonia, and he also suffered from prostatic hypertrophy that obstructed urine flow, that people think that if he had the medical diagnosis that we would have today, he had some degree of cancer. So he was a huge wine guy.
Well, I mean,
I'm mentioning that his kidneys fucking gave out on him, but saying, I
get it now, but you could credit Thomas Jefferson for us having the wine industry in the United States because it was Thomas Jefferson who brought the grapes from France, planted them in Virginia, which eventually made their way out west to Napa, Sonoma. And I'm sure that I'm speaking out of turn and that there are grapes from elsewhere. But if at the core of it, Thomas Jefferson, essentially you could trace it all back to him bringing the grapes over, and that's what created the wine industry in this country.
I'd only heard, I didn't do a deep dive on that, but I've only heard that, passing wise, as far as I know. I also know Thomas Jefferson is responsible for macaroni and cheese indirectly.
I didn't know that.
I told that story in another episode because he was gifted a slave who he had then, I believe, taken over to France to some culinary thing, brought it back, and he made macaroni and cheese the way that we know it now. So indirectly, Thomas Jefferson is for wine, because it's a food podcast. I like how you brought it back. Wine and fucking macaroni and cheese.
How about it?
Yeah.
How about it?
One of the more overrated side dishes, I think. Never on my table at a holiday.
A function. Yeah, no, I think it always...
I don't mind macaroni and cheese.
I like macaroni and cheese, but I feel like as a side, it's almost too heavy.
Yeah. It's a fucking meal. And listen, lobster mac and all that kind of stuff. I get it. And I don't think that I'm being snobbish here, because I opened up the Blue Box a lot. My mom made tuna casseroles as a kid, which was the Blue Box Kraft macaroni and cheese, a can of tuna, some chopped onion. She'd layer it with fucking just slices of tomato, seasoned breadcrumbs, and then she'd pour melted butter on it into the oven. And I couldn't wait for it to come out. So I do eat it. It's just not, it's a huge staple on most holiday tables, particularly down south. It's not with me.
No.
Maybe the Northerners just don't gravitate to it as a holiday option.
I think just because we have better options.
We've always had a lasagna or a baked ziti or a stuffed shells or a manigot, or something like that. We just never had a macaroni and cheese.
Yeah.
I consider it more like where I order macaroni and cheese mostly at sometimes steakhouses, which do the lobster mac just because it's kind of interesting, but otherwise it's at barbecue joints.
Yes, because also too, I think like up north, as you grow up, I think you age out of macaroni and cheese, right?
A little bit.
Like you don't make it as much if it's just a bunch of adults.
I wonder if young people are listening to this and be like, no way, macaroni and cheese till I die. I'm telling you, it changes.
Yeah.
It does. You become, maybe snobby is not the right word, but I asked the question, I've asked you this question before, which food do you wish you can get back? And when people tell me, like Patty's answer was awesome about the chicken nuggets and powdered mashed potatoes he used to get on Wednesdays at his high school cafeteria. He can probably get that exact meal back, but he knows it won't hit the way it did.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
My mom's tuna casserole, she hasn't made it in years. I'm going to make it this week now because I'm thinking about it. I'm hoping it still hits. Because it's like I sit down and I'm like, kids, you got to watch Conan the Barbarian. Conan the Barbarian was my shit. Back, what in life is good? To crush your enemies, seem driven before you, and hear the lamentations of the women. I love that shit. I put it on with them. I was like, I can see that they're losing interest, and I am too.
That almost hurts because you want them to like it as much as you like it.
Yeah.
And when they don't, it's disappointing.
Yeah. It really is. And so like Annie had sat down with Bridget, she was a 15-year-old girl, and watched Breakfast Club while I was in Mexico. And I was like, how was it? Bridget's like, oh, it was good. I was like, oh, thank God. She was like, music, I knew a lot of the songs that were good. I thought everything was good. She was like, my only thing was mom said it was rated R. And it was rated R, I believe, back then.
Is that right?
I think so. Maybe somebody could check this, but because maybe Annie's wrong. I will never admit that, and neither will she. But like Annie thought that it would be a little bit too risque for her. Meanwhile, Bridget, she's not in a convent at all. She watches all this stuff, listens to all this music. We don't put our kids in bubble wrap. And she was like, that was pretty tame. I'm like, yeah, I guess so.
The language isn't bad. There's the drug use, but even that nowadays is
who gives a shit? Yeah.
Crazy. You just got
not who gives a shit, but you know what I'm saying.
No, I know what you mean. I think what an awesome thing to be, forgive this word, a virgin to the John Hughes catalog.
Right.
And being able to dive into all those movies that really shaped an entire decade.
Yeah.
And launched however many careers. And now, and this isn't a movie podcast, but doesn't seem like there is a filmmaker like John Hughes right now who is in that genre of coming of age, teenage movies like he made back in the 80s.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more spread out.
Yes.
Like he had, he had it on lock.
Yes.
For a 10-year period.
Right.
Chris Columbus.
Yeah, him and Chris Columbus.
Chris Columbus.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't tell you who does the comp to those. I can't tell you if there's one guy who would do the remake of Ferris. By the way, Ferris Bueller, it was huge in my house. My kids growing up, I was very happy about that too. Because so many things, they're like, ugh, that's your type of shit, Dad.
No, that's
so some of the stuff that,
one.
Last thing I'm going to say about history. So you now know that Thomas Jefferson and John Adams both died on the same day, and it was July 4th, 1826, exactly 50 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence, which I think is cool. But what doesn't get as much shine is that there was a third president who also died on July 4th. And it was it wasn't Calvin Coolidge. James Monroe, the fifth president.
Sure.
So now think about that. We had 5 presidents, the first 5 presidents. 3 of those 5 died on the 4th of July. That's kind of cool.
It's eerie.
Yeah, it is a little bit. So James Monroe died at the age of 73 at his son-in-law's home in New York City, right? It was exactly 5 years after Jefferson and Adams passed. So it was on the 55th anniversary of the original July 4th. And then the reason I mentioned Calvin Coolidge is because 3 presidents have died on the 4th of July. Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and James Monroe. And Calvin Coolidge is the only POTUS to be born on Independence Day.
Ah, okay.
He was the 30th president of the United States, Calvin Coolidge. He took office when Warren Harding had died, and he was born on July 4th, 1872 in Plymouth Notch, Vermont. And less importantly, George Steinbrenner, one of Obama's daughters, I don't know if it's Sasha or Malia, and Post Malone were all born on the 4th of July.
Interesting.
That's the history section of You Gotta Try This with Large and Cons. The original, we'll get into the food right now. 4th of July, the original one, John Adams and his wife celebrated the 4th of July with, if you want to know what the original menu was for the 4th of July, and we'll get into modern day times, but the original menu will go with John Adams's. He celebrated the first 4th of July with turtle soup, poached salmon with egg sauce, green peas, and boiled potatoes.
Oof.
Those were the dishes selected to reflect a certain degree of formality and to showcase some of the finest ingredients available at the time.
Yeah.
Like when you think about what we do with Thanksgiving nowadays, and then you look how the original one was celebrated. Obviously, it was a different table. And the 4th of July, the same exact thing. If you were to invite me over to your house on the 4th of July and you would ask me, how do you like your turtle soup? I would be pumped. I would be fucking pumped because I'm a freak show.
Yes.
But the formality of the time and whatnot is gone. So you see how everything got less fancy. We talk about it all the time with how people, dress to go on planes and dress to go to restaurants. So all that shit is done. Watermelons were involved in and around the first celebration because watermelon was likely introduced to Americans by European explorers and colonizers. The earliest recorded mention of it in North America was in Florida in 1576. So 200 years before the Declaration. And then in Massachusetts in 1629. So again, 150-ish years before the Declaration. Thomas Jefferson, on top of being a big wine guy and bringing in mac and cheese, he was a fan of watermelons, and he had them grown in his Virginia plantations.
My favorite fruit.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah, I think that's up there.
Yeah.
I can't think of one off the rip that I like more.
No, I think it's the fruit that has the best batting average. Like, how often do you get a bad watermelon? It's not as often as you might get a bad whatever else.
Yeah.
Fruit. Very good batting average. Tasty.
Yeah.
It's just perfect.
Easy.
Yes.
Doesn't make you feel like shit.
Right.
Because watermelon's mostly water.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? So you can eat as much. And obviously our Lord and Savior, Dave Portnoy, is a huge fan of it. So we had watermelon, but otherwise it was turtle soup and that type of shit. But here's the game changer. When German immigrants introduced what would now be considered hot dogs in the 19th century, everything changed. This is talking about the 1800s now, so we're pushing it up a little bit. And it's relatively common knowledge that hamburgers are named after the German city from where they're said to have originated in Hamburg, right? So if you're enjoying the 4th of July this year, as we traditionally enjoy the 4th of July with hot dogs and hamburgers, maybe thank a German. And the Germans need a good headline, right? Because of some of the shit.
They could use some good press.
Yeah, some of the shit they pulled in the 40s, whatnot, has gotten them a little bit still a stigma. Well deserved. Shame on you. But thankfully for the Germans, we're going to have a hot dog and a hamburger on the grill on this 4th of July. On top of the 4th of July, we just passed something that was pretty important to you. The U.S. Army's birthday is on
June 14th.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now you have to know all that shit, right? Like that's not putting you on the spot.
No.
That's like a cadet thing. You have to know when all this stuff is, right?
Yes.
It's one of those things that you have.
I mean, when you go to West Point in the first summer, Beast Barracks, you get a book that's like that thick of just knowledge.
When did you graduate West Point?
2006.
2006. Okay.
But you have to just essentially memorize all of this knowledge and get indoctrinated to understand it. And part of that is like a hazing aspect. It's like, hey, tell me, the reasons that we're black, gray, and gold are our colors and what they represent. And if you don't, you got to do push-ups, things of that nature. But then there's other aspects of it that it's important to know your history.
Right.
I'm as are you, a history guy. I think it's important to know where we came from. So it's important to know that the Army on 1775, was created to fight tyranny and oppression.
So it's the 250th anniversary.
Yes.
So 1775, think about that. So we became a nation for all intents and purposes in 1776.
Yes.
But the only fucking reason we did that is because we had a standing army since 1775.
Right. And I mean, what I mentioned on my show recently that I find fascinating, this country's so young relative to the rest of the world. Obviously, I'm not breaking news there. But so then when you think about an institution that has been in existence longer than the country technically has been in existence, that's pretty impressive to stand the test of time and to be an institution that the country has called on time and again when she was in need. I think that is very cool. And there was obviously a lot of blowback for the big parade in DC when the Army celebrated its 250th birthday. I was very much in favor of that parade. I thought it was cool. I thought it's awesome to celebrate your history, be proud of all of that tradition. You saw all the soldiers marching in the different uniforms from the different eras. And to me, that stuff is important. People want to complain about the price. Listen, I could go down a laundry list of things that the Department of Defense spends money on that will blow your mind.
Yeah.
So don't worry about the price of a parade. But anyway, I thought it was very cool and needed. And it's important, just like it's important to celebrate the 4th of July every year.
And people can't sometimes get their mind around, I keep going back to history because I enjoy talking about it with you. The English Empire, like the idea that the sun never sets on the English Empire, like, so no matter where you are in the world, and it was true that the sun never set on the English Empire for a long time. It was as big of an empire as anything the world has ever seen in the history of this planet. Right. So you talk about things like Genghis Khan and the amount of raping, pillaging, and fucking that he had did to, make sure that every one of us is 0.02% Mongol. Like people talk, but I think people sometimes overlook the fact that if you put together all of the holidays that all of the cultures around the world celebrate their break from Britain, it fills up a fucking calendar. Like our 4th of July, there are so many other countries throughout the world that have their own 4th of July from getting away from that little fucking thing run by that goofy son of a bitch with the bad teeth.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I don't know, like if we this is the 4th of July episode. So I am trying to take a step back just to kind of appreciate what people had done at that time to break away from a historical powerhouse. So I don't know. So celebrating the Army's birthday, especially the 250, and giving them a giant parade, I wish they would have made it bigger. They could have probably had more of a, I don't know, put them on, instead of the Katy Perry thing being launched into fucking space. Let's give them the benefit of some sort of parade. Let's talk about military food. MREs.
Meals ready to eat.
Okay. I've had them because when I was doing Podfathers, it was Twisted. one of them, some gentleman had sent me a box of them. And then Clem and I had cooked them in the studio once. This was years ago, maybe for Podfathers. And they were fucking awful. They were fucking awful.
I guess relative to other food, yeah, they're not great.
Right. And so was that one of those things, and we've come a long way from the hardtack and beef jerky that people are fucking eating during, Mel Gibson's movie, The Patriot and shit like that. But how was it in general for you coming from the family that you came from and going into West Point, and then talk to us about your service where you said, and talk to me about the food that it was, the quality of it, now that you look back on it years later.
Well, so the mess hall in West Point is iconic. And the fact that they serve 4,000 plus people at one time in a matter of 20 minutes is incredibly impressive.
Wait, 20 minutes is the whole fucking meal?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, eat breakfast and lunch. Yeah. They're not more than 20 minutes long. Dinner, most nights, it's just like a buffet style because everybody's got crazy schedules. So you're not mandated to go to dinner at the same time. But we do have big dinners where we do all come together, like Christmas dinner, we get in our full dress uniform, or the Henry O. Flipper dinner, which celebrates the first African-American graduate from West Point. Those, we have formal dinners and the different weekends that celebrate each class. But yeah, it's an impressive operation to feed 4,000 people hot food all at once.
How is it?
It's good. Now, again, when you put it up against a Michelin star restaurant.
No, but when you put it up, so I would, like when you said you had to memorize this and that about the history of the Army in a book this big, I know that Mick had to memorize the history of Pike, his fucking fraternity, right? And I remember what it was like going to the North Dining Hall at Notre Dame, and the food was good. I know what Mick gets at the Pike House in Alabama, and it's great.
Yes.
I mean, that's
but how many people are they feeding?
Who the fuck cares? Too many. And no, not too many. I'm sorry. Compared to you're saying.
Right.
Yeah, compared to what they do, it's a much smaller pool. I can't complain about Notre Dame food services because I know a lot of colleges had the same food services as American Airlines.
Okay.
So what you were getting on international flights is what you were getting for fucking lunch in there. And that's why people would run to Subway or someplace like that just to kind of get away from the dining halls. So I'm saying comparatively to what you would think for thousands of people to be fed at lunch in 20 minutes. Now I ask you the same question. How was it?
Very good.
It was very good.
Very good. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I still think about the chicken sandwiches. When it was chicken sandwich day in the mess hall, I still think about those and how good they were. I still think about the meatball sub day and how good those were. And I distinctly remember the onion rings, how the skin would fall off the onion and they were just the perfect consistency.
The breading?
Yes.
Oh, like breading. A pair of pants would fall right on. I know that. Sometimes you bite into it and you slide out an onion. Yeah.
Right. And same goes for, the breakfast burritos were memorable for me. So it is good food. And then during, summer training, you'd go out into the field or wherever. And a lot of times you weren't served a hot meal, because sometimes they bring food out to you depending on what part of your training you're at. And then also during the summer between freshman and sophomore year, you're out at a place called Camp Buckner, and there is a mess hall there where you eat meals. But then there's sometimes where you're out on field problems where you're not going to come all the way back in just to eat. So you do eat MREs, meals ready to eat. And again, it's one of those things where I think it's kind of like akin to like Stockholm syndrome, where you're so miserable doing whatever you're doing, but you're all miserable together, and you kind of have fond memories, and you grow to enjoy an MRE. You grow to enjoy certain aspects of what's in the MRE, because you talk to anybody who has served in the military and they could tell you what their favorite MRE was. And they could tell you.
What was yours?
Chili mac.
Okay.
Actually maybe even beef stew. Beef stew is good too. Because they used to have these like miniature Tabasco bottles.
Awful.
No, it was.
Okay.
It was. And, there was always a debate, like, do you heat your MRE up? Do you have time to heat it up? Or do you have to just essentially like inhale the food for sustenance, and you're not there to like sit down and enjoy a meal? Because so often that's what it's about too. It's about just getting something in your stomach.
Wait, so you're saying, so an MRE, if you're going to do, let's take beef stew, because that intrigues me a little bit more. If you had beef stew, would you saying that it would be in your fucking sack, your whatever, your
rucksack,
your rucksack, and it was so hot that you could pop it open in a can and it would be beyond a little bit above room temperature, so you would just eat it like that? Because the MREs that we had that this person had sent us,
they all come in pouches.
It was a pouch with almost like a chemical that activated in water, right? And then it would sort of boil in the bag.
Yes.
Not anything to where it was too dangerous, like, but it did the trick.
Hot, though.
Yeah. It did the trick.
Yeah.
So sometimes you would skip that part and just eat out of a bag.
More often than not, I would skip that part. Okay. Because it was like you didn't have time, or it was like too much of a hassle.
Right.
You didn't feel like waiting. You were just hungry. But
Little Things Tabasco.
Yeah, they were like the little mini Tabasco, and they don't have them anymore apparently, which is unfortunate.
Right.
I guess they lost that contract. But anyway, the wheat snack bread and peanut butter, people, it's like cardboard, this wheat snack bread.
Right.
You've had great, fresh, delicious bread.
Yeah.
Not it.
No.
Think about like bread that's built to last 30 years. That's what it tastes like.
Like fucking hardtack.
But I loved it.
Really?
I loved it. I mean, with the peanut butter or beef patty. And that was the other thing too. Everything is called a very standard name. Like beef patty is a hamburger.
Yeah, they don't zhuzh it up.
No.
Like they don't say Tuscan beef ragu.
No.
It's beef stew.
Yes.
Like Tuscan short rib ragu or something where they could screw it around and just throw one white bean in there and technically a Tuscan maybe or something. Mm-hmm. They don't try at all. Chili mac. They just try to get in there as opposed to Texas chili mac and cheese, like something like that. Texas red mac and cheese with a cracker crumble or something. They really don't give a fuck about
it's
it.
Bare bones.
Yeah.
It's very bare bones. But then the other thing that's cool about MREs is it brings you back to grammar school when you go to the lunchroom,
right?
And you trade. It's like, oh, all right, I got the who wants a wheat snack bread? Oh, you got the jalapeno spread, cheese spread. Give me that jalapeno spread, and I'll give you my peanut butter spread.
Right.
So things of that nature, and that's just kind of a cool thing because also the desserts varied. You know, you'd have like a pound cake. There was a brownie. Some of them came with a legitimate like name brand Skittles bag, M&M's bag.
Oh,
so those were always hot commodities.
Was it so that? So on top of it being edible and on top of it having some degree of, I don't know, nostalgia for you, you saying that it was just good, is that why it's impossible to be fat and be in the Army? I mean, for the most part, once you become an officer and you no longer have to do that and, you know, you get older and whatnot, but I'm talking about from the beginning, it's impossible to private pile that, to come in as a fat Vincent D'Onofrio and stay a fat Vincent D'Onofrio because you just can't get that many fucking MREs in you, I would think, right?
In theory, but yeah, you could also, what we would call, so MREs come in a box, like the individual pouches come in a case. And the term was rat fuck the MREs. So there would be people who'd go into a case of MREs, slit them all open, take out what they want, and then like leave the scraps.
Okay.
So there would be people who would just like load up on 6 brownies and 12 hamburger patties because that's what they liked. And they would put that in their rucksack. And that's a really, we call Blue Falcon thing to do to really screw your buddies over by opening the MREs and essentially taking out the best parts.
Right. So they would just absolutely molest them.
Yes. So in theory, yes, you shouldn't be able to get fat in the military, but there are ways.
Are there?
Yeah, you could.
I mean, I just, in general, right? You'd like to think that the people who are protecting this nation, standing on that wall, because you want them on the wall, you need them on that wall, would all be kind of sculpted. But I also don't want them to be sculpted at the expense of not being able to eat well. Because even though I send Mick to basketball and soccer camp at West Point every summer for a couple of years while he was in grammar and middle school, the only experience I have up in West Point of eating is at a small Chinese place called Dong Fang's. Dong Fang's right there, and also the Thayer.
Yes.
And I've stayed in the Thayer multiple times. We spoke about this on the first time you were on the show, and I can't recommend that more. I can't recommend more to people on the East Coast and beyond. You know, when you go and you want to see historical parts of the United States, Cons was mentioning how we're such a young nation, 1776 to now. So we're looking at 250 years or so. we don't have what you would have if you just walked out into the street in Prague and you would see a 1,000-year-old building with, these dramatic, ornate stuff coming off them and flying buttresses and, naked ladies spitting water onto fucking all that stuff. And you're like, wow, what is that place? And they're like, oh, that's a Starbucks.
Well, no, just because that's my point. Like anytime I've ever been in Europe, I love going into churches.
Yes.
Because I just love to see the architect, and I'm not like an architecture snob or anything, but I like to see what you just described.
Yeah.
Whereas like here in the United States, those are, fewer and further between because not everything was built to be the best thing possible in that neighborhood the way it was in countries that have been around for thousands of years. Like St. Patrick's Cathedral, gorgeous church.
100%.
The cathedral in Newark, gorgeous church. But like every church over in Europe is gorgeous.
Yes. So every one of them is cathedral-esque. Yes. And that's why I appreciate West Point, because when I walk in, everything seems antiquated in a good way. Right. Everything seems like it was built to last and built to be admired for centuries to come. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Especially when you're going around that one road that leads you to, I guess, what is West Point, that overlook part.
Yes.
You pass by some of these big stone buildings and it is impressive. Mm-hmm. It does feel kind of European. So if you're going to plan a trip somewhere in and around New York and you don't want to carve out a day to see West Point, instead you want to go to the top of the fucking Empire State Building. No shade at the Empire State Building. It's kind of cool, but you're out of your fucking mind. Mm-hmm. Get a night at the Thayer. They have Murphy beds if you bring the kids and stuff, which is fucking cool as shit. The Zulu Lounge is a great place to have a drink. Mm-hmm. All the drinks are named after, the General Patton, the Eisenhower, all that shit. And then the brunch at the Thayer Hotel. And I'm not a huge brunch guy.
Oh, it's fantastic though.
That's the best brunch in the world for me.
Yeah.
The brunch at the Thayer Hotel. And maybe it's just the whole idea behind where we are and appreciating the history of the places that we are. But the brunch in the Thayer Hotel is elite. At least I think it is. I can't imagine it's gone downhill, right?
No, it hasn't.
Because I haven't been there in 10 years.
Tier. No, it's still top tier.
And also an Army football game. So I just told this story to your co-host. My son Finnegan has been to tailgates at Alabama with his brother, and Alabama tailgates are what you would expect. They're wild and everyone's beautiful and they're a lot of fun and the football team is very good for the most part and all that kind of shit. But Finnegan's favorite tailgate of all time is the tailgates that we've gone to with, I probably should mention this, I should have mentioned it from the jump, with your dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we just recently lost your dad, unfortunately. Obviously my sincere condolences. He was the guy. So, but Finnegan sitting there and having a cigar and I'm on the grill because you guys work me like a fucking dog at those things.
We like to but your dad bring everybody in and make them feel like they're part of the tailgate.
Yeah, yeah, or indentured servants.
Yes.
And but we got to go into the officers club with you during halftime. Terrible fucking game. I think you guys played UConn or something like that.
Smashed them.
Yeah, smashed. Yeah, barely. But it's another thing. That's good if you have an in with a captain in the Army to go up and do it. But I've also gone up and seen hockey games there.
Oh, just great barn. Great barn there and Tate Rink.
And then all of a sudden afterwards, the kids bring their skates and then they all just jump down onto the ice and they skate around with the Army team. The Army team stays there and skates around with the kids.
Yeah.
So I think that when people say, hey, this is your must go to when you come in and around New York, and they'll give you restaurants that are legit and all that stuff. But if they're telling you to go someplace and West Point's not on that list, I think it's a shame because it's an hour. Right? Without traffic.
Just an hour though. It's not a bad drive.
And you'll feel like you drove out of New York into a different part of the world. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I can't recommend that enough. 4th of July foods.
Yes. Bringing it back.
Keep 4, cut 4. Okay?
Wow.
Keep 4, cut 4.
Okay.
All right? For the Cons 4th of July barbecue. 4, cut 4. Okay? So these are keeping.
Yeah.
These are cutting.
Yeah.
Okay? A hamburger, cheeseburger, whatever you want to call it. Simple cheeseburger on the grill, not a smash burger, not a pub burger, nothing. A simple cheeseburger with a slice of American cheese on a fucking potato roll.
Yes.
Nothing fancy, just like you have. Keep or cut.
Keep.
It has to be a keep. It fucking has to be.
American cheese, yeah.
If you don't have a hamburger at a hot dog.
Keep.
You have to keep a hot dog.
Yes.
Potato salad.
I could cut that.
You cut potato salad. Coleslaw.
Got to keep it.
You got to keep coleslaw?
Yeah.
Macaroni salad.
Cut it.
You're cutting macaroni salad.
Yes.
So I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more depth. Watermelon.
Keep.
Watermelons keep. Now you have nothing else. Corn on the cob.
You know what? I'm okay cutting corn on the cob.
You'd rather corn on the cob? You'd rather watermelon than corn on the cob?
Yes, because of the ease of which it takes to eat it.
Okay. So corn on the cob goes, and the last one is a gimme because I know you'd front end the keeps, and it's baked beans. I love baked beans on 4th of July.
Guess what? Depending on the temperature, I'm not going for a bowl of baked beans.
It's a truism. It's 100% a truism, but I also have the side burner on my grill, and it's almost exclusively for kraut and baked beans. It's just kind of easy to have there.
Yeah.
And every time I put it out on an outdoor thing, if it's 60 degrees or if it's 160 degrees, baked beans in my family fucking go.
I mean, they're delicious.
Put a little pork belly in it. I add a little bit of brown mustard and all that stuff. Whatever the fuck you do, I zhuzh it up. Maybe a little brown sugar. No big deal. So you would keep a hot dog, which is a staple. How do you take your hot dog?
Just sliced.
No. How do you take a hot dog?
Oh, like what? I'm a spicy mustard guy.
Okay.
And if we have relish, spicy mustard and relish, that's what
how do you feel about the contingency that says that no ketchup on a hot dog? It's not a hill that I die on.
No, not a hill I die on. I mean, I've had plenty of hot dogs with ketchup on them. It's just not the condiment I reach for.
Right.
When it comes to my hot dogs.
But you get shamed for it in certain places.
That's weird.
How do you feel about that in general? Like if you go to Louis' Lunch Counter out in Connecticut, they do not have ketchup in the place. It's the home of the original hamburger. They do them. You ever see that? They have those vertical kind of grills that they do them on. And people will try and smuggle some ketchup in. You get thrown out. I was at some place in Chicago where they don't do any ketchup, but there was a McDonald's next door. The McDonald's is no longer there. That used to sell you ketchup packets for 25 cents a piece so you can put them on the hot dogs from this place in Chicago.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of Chicago dogs putting ketchup on them in general is known to be a travesty. There are a lot of places that feel extremely strong about that. Extremely strong. And even here, I think Hiram's that I went to will not put ketchup on a dog. If you order it, you have to do it by yourself at the table. It's a weird fucking hill to die on, isn't it?
Yes, but then also I would say, especially the people you mentioned, they're the quote unquote experts. So if they're telling you this doesn't belong,
right,
maybe you should follow their lead.
Okay.
That's how I feel about it.
Then how do you feel about something that you might be more of an expert? How do you feel about going to a restaurant, spending a lot of money on a tomahawk ribeye and it coming, presentation is perfect, nicely sliced with the bone there, cooked perfectly medium rare for you. You're sitting down, you're about to enjoy it with one or other person. The person says, "Can I get some ketchup?"
Oh my God, I would just no longer be friends with them.
So that's the hill where you become.
Yes.
So your hill just moved to a different area code, right?
Yes,
you
yes.
live on a more expensive hill.
Yes.
You're saying if you want to put ketchup on bologna, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
if you want to put it on a fucking dry age tomahawk from Rocco's.
Because you're ruining the taste at that point.
But you don't feel that way with the other things.
No, because hot dogs more or less, there isn't as much variance. And obviously a hot dog, just given what it is not a higher end meat.
No, lips and assholes.
Right. So if you want to screw it up further in these people's opinions by putting ketchup on it, go ahead, have at it.
But there's a certain purity to steak for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel the same way. Every now and again, I do put it out on the table because Finnegan is an A1 guy. Kind of fits Finn. He's like an A1 guy, you know? And so there's ketchup on the table sometimes, or A1. But it's one of those things where I now cook with less seasoning because I want to enjoy food more.
Sure.
You know, coming back from Mexico where everything was so seasoned and all that, that's wonderful to do that. And I go absolutely bananas on a dish that needs it. Like my Fra Diablo would knock your fucking socks off. Like, you know, to the point where you'd be like, this is almost too much. So it's not like I cook unseasoned food. Don't get that wrong. But I'm starting to appreciate the meat more than when I was a kid.
Sure.
I used to drown my lamb because my mom used to make lamb quite a bit coming from an Irish family. I used to drown my lamb and I realized I was drowning out the taste of the fucking meat.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm at a place now where I'm a little bit more comfortable with it. I'm going to do the lamb hero up in Milano's in a couple of weeks. And I think I'm just going to raw dog it.
There you go.
I want to taste meat again. Yeah. I told you that we're developing a line of questions that I want to just give people when they come here. And it's got to be somewhat universal because having Chef Greeny on the show, the people who do our are talent, like who find talent for people to talk to, had asked me if I wanted to have anybody else from that universe. And I do. I want them all. I spoke to Greeny about it. So give me Adam Richman, give me Alton Brown, give me Damaris Phillips, give me anybody. Ann Burrell just passed away recently. It was a fucking shocker to me, but I loved Ann Burrell. Obviously.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
So sad.
Bobby Flay I just saw in Mexico. He's eating at the same restaurant. He's sitting next to MB.
Oh, wow.
We're at this restaurant called Puyol. Give me all of those guys, but I would like to get to a point where I ask people questions and it's universally able to be answered, whether I'm talking to Captain Cons or Bobby Flay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna try a couple out with you.
Fire away.
I know I've tried a couple of them before. I don't think these are going to be overly repetitive.
Okay.
How do you take your eggs?
Honestly, it depends on what.
No, Cons.
Right,
listen, I'm coming to you.
Okay.
I'll give you. No, I'm going to get a little bit more granular. We're about to go and play golf in a little bit. Casual golf. It's not that hot out.
Okay.
All right. Nothing that's going to stop you from eating what you want.
Okay.
But we want to have a little bit of a breakfast, and so we go. America's guest. And let's say the person at the country club says, "What do you want?" You're going to. I'm going to do bacon and eggs, sausage and eggs. How do you want your eggs?
In that regard, it's sunny side.
Sunny side up.
I like when the yolk runs and gets on everything else and kind of gives it a little bit of a flavor. So I would have to gun to my head.
Not over easy?
No, not over easy. I want to go sunny side.
Okay.
Because when I get my steak and eggs, it's sunny side. When I get my corned beef hash, side of 2 eggs, sunny side.
Perfect.
Like I love omelets, but I don't think that's what you're asking here.
No, it is.
All right. Well,
if your favorite thing to have as an egg dish
I think
is shakshuka, then I want to know if your favorite, and that's why I'm using it as a guinea pig. I think if I ask Alton Brown would be like, you know what? I was in Malaysia and they baked these eggs in ash, and it was one of those, like, that's a question I expect from Alton Brown.
No.
If I was to ask maybe Meek Phil, and he's like, I like my scrambled eggs well done with a ton of ketchup, then that's an answer for Meek Phil.
Sure.
If somebody is all of a sudden being like, oh, I do, soft boileds, I have the cracker and I eat them out. Oh, you fancy. Like, I think everybody has that. Isn't that like a universality?
Yeah.
Because if somebody also goes, oh, I'm allergic to eggs, which by the way is the #1 food allergy in the world, I believe is eggs. I didn't know that either. So my buddy told me, I think that's an okay question to ask.
I think so, yeah. No, I agree. And that you mentioning the well done eggs with ketchup, like in the mess hall going back to West Point, powdered eggs. That's how they served eggs. That's how you make eggs for 4,000 people at once.
Right.
But I would put hot sauce and ketchup on those and pepper, black pepper. But anyway, no, to answer your question, if I only can go one way, I got to go sunny side because then I like my yolk on all my other things.
And
the bread, the steak, the corned beef hash, whatever that is.
If you're ordering a breakfast sandwich, this is an addendum to the question. So that's how you have your eggs when you're just ordering eggs. And you'd probably do that, like you said, salt and pepper, maybe a little bit of hot sauce, kind of getting everything in the hash browns with it. I could go for breakfast right now, to be honest with you.
Wow.
If you had to have an egg sandwich, if you had to have a breakfast sandwich, what's your breakfast sandwich order?
Oh, it's Taylor ham, egg, and cheese.
Taylor ham, not pork roll?
Yeah, it's Taylor ham. It's Taylor ham, egg, and cheese.
Why isn't it not pork roll?
Because that's where I grew up in Jersey. In Jersey, where I grew up, Central Jersey, it was Taylor ham.
That's a hill people love to fucking
I will die
go.
on that hill.
Will you?
Yeah, I'll die on that hill.
Taylor ham, egg, and cheese on a roll.
Yep.
With?
It's got to be just a little bit runny so it gets a little messy. But not so messy that, I need 6 napkins and a shower afterwards.
Are you salt, pepper, ketchup?
Yes.
Okay.
Salt, pepper, ketchup. Yes.
I'm salt, pepper, ketchup, hot sauce.
Yes. Sometimes with the hot sauce, that's where I think it can get a little messier.
100%. Give it to me though. Like I'm the exact opposite. I'm like barely cooked that egg, and I want it to get on my watch.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
okay with that.
my measuring stick. I want a breakfast sandwich. If you want a truly good egg breakfast sandwich, I'll go back to that place in Brick that I went to, Jovo's.
Yeah, let me know next time you're down. We'll go together.
Yeah, I go to Jovo's, and that thing was.
Yeah,
that was too big.
Yeah.
But it was very, very good. I would do that in half, whatever the lesser of it is. But with those eggs cooked over easy, I did that raw with just salt and pepper. But I would do salt, pepper, ketchup, hot sauce on that thing. And again, if it's not getting closer to my elbow than my watch, then I'm sending it back and demanding my money back. So how do you take your eggs? Is going to be one I think I use. Is that good?
That's good.
Okay. What about breakfast sandwich? I think it's a little more regional.
Yeah, breakfast sandwich, you might get a fried egg or a little over easy because you can't do a sunny side on a. Well, I mean, I guess you could.
You can, yeah. But as a question, because I think, let's say I'm interviewing Somebody from California.
I don't know. Are breakfast, because also I think you mentioned California, you might get breakfast burrito.
Which I think I wouldn't mind talking about either.
I love breakfast burritos.
Like if I'm talking to you about Jovo's
I was just
somebody
in
else
Austin,
tells me.
and I went to One in a Million, one of my favorite spots, and I had breakfast tacos.
So if that's somebody's answer.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Well, that could probably be their answer for how do you like your eggs? I like them in a breakfast taco.
Sure.
All right. I'm going to keep that in.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how it's going to be. It's a process.
This is a work
right?
process.
Yeah.
Sure.
Favorite beverage, hot or cold? Doesn't matter what it is, just one. If you had to think of your favorite drink in your mind, it can be alcoholic, can be non-alcoholic, can be hot, can be cold, can be sweet, whatever the fuck you want. What is your favorite beverage?
An ice cold tall glass of milk.
Really?
Yeah, I love milk.
Can you drink milk with a dinner?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, that's what we did growing up too.
No. That's not what we did growing up. That's what you did growing up. And I think it's what most of the fucking country did growing up.
Yeah.
I never had milk unless it was with a peanut butter and jelly or a dessert, piece of cake and cookies.
Right.
Every now and again, if I'd get in the mood for a glass of milk, I'd have one. But I'm telling you, I could go for days without and listen, I had a lot of cereal. I was never malnourished, so I always got enough dairy in me. Just from my cheese intake and whatnot. But it wasn't until I went to college and my roommates all stacked up glasses of milk when we went to the dining hall, whereas I was like a Sprite and a couple of waters or whatever the fuck it was. And so you're a milk guy is your favorite thing.
Absolutely. And sorry, I keep bringing it back to the mess hall in West Point. That was always on the table. There were always the little cartons of milk for as many seats as there were.
Do they serve soda in the mess hall?
There's probably there's definitely like the fountain machines.
Oh, a couple of fountain machines.
Yes.
Okay.
But that's only for dinner.
Oh, okay.
And that's the buffet.
But in general, would you say it's water, juice, and milk?
Yes.
Okay. Probably a good thing.
Yes.
I hear. All right. So that's your favorite beverage, hot or cold milk. I think that's a psychopath answer. You can only have one form of potato for the rest of your life.
Easy. So
you're right now, what are you? You're like 57, right?
My age?
Yeah. 58 or something like that. But no, so like as you're kind of approaching middle age, because Khan's like 28 years old, and you're going to have one form of potato for the rest of your life. And I mean, the rest of forms of potato will no longer exist. So we're getting a little meta here. What's the one form of potato for the rest of your life?
It's not versatile because you can really
know the answer.
Well,
you know the answer easily. You know the answer.
No. Beyond
as an Irishman,
yes,
you know the answer right away.
Yeah, it's mashed potatoes.
Is it mashed potatoes?
Yeah.
Really?
That's my favorite kind of potato.
Okay,
absolutely. Now, obviously, I'm eliminating fries, which are always great alongside a sandwich, alongside a hamburger. But I'm okay because I love mashed potatoes.
So a cancel replace on hamburger and fries to a hamburger and mashed potatoes. Doesn't sound bad.
No, it's delicious.
Somebody had said that mashed potatoes are for the very young and the very old.
Yeah.
People who chew
that's smart.
With no problems like you should be something different. So that
what's your answer? Am I allowed to ask you?
You can, but when you take everything off the table, and I can only have one potato for the rest of my life, I'm going with a homemade right out of the fryer potato chip.
Wow.
Because I could have
those are
I could have a pile of, just done on a mandolin, soaked in water, get a little bit of starch out, pressed fucking dry, thrown into a deep fryer, straight out, heavily salted. I could have that next to a plate of eggs and bacon. I could easily have hot chips next to eggs and bacon. I could have it next to a burger or a sandwich fucking easily. And I order those type of, not cottage fries. What do they do them in a steakhouse? Maybe Scotch fries. And I can easily have them next to a steak. I can have them as a snack. If all of a sudden I'm sitting in front of the TV, just dipping in blue cheese or fucking onion dip or something like that.
Mine's pretty relegated to just a plate.
I don't know, because mashed potatoes is all like I did this thing with one of these food services. They don't pay me on this show, so I won't mention who they are, but they send you all the raw ingredients to make meals.
Oh, right.
And they're very easy to do. And so when I'm going away, sometimes I'll order that because Annie will like to follow the instructions. She'll like to follow the recipe and make like well-balanced meals for her and the kids, which I love. But if they're there when I'm home, I just see the raw materials and I make whatever I want.
Yeah.
So every now and again, when I order those, I find that I'll have like a random 2 potatoes left around or something. And so I mashed 2 potatoes the other day.
Yes.
Expecting I don't know what I was going to do with them. I just had water boiling because I was hard boiling some eggs, and I made mashed potatoes. I warmed up the milk because I bought Annie a espresso machine. So I did the warm milk, and I added that. Yeah, the frother. I did that to warm cream to the potatoes, just with salt, a little bit of white pepper, and butter.
It was delicious.
And it didn't have a fucking chance.
Yeah. To
the point where I ate most of them with 2 fingers. Like that's how, like, when you taste it, you're normally using a spoon.
Yeah.
With mashed potatoes, it's a finger thing to me. Very few things I finger outside of my wife. Ooh, I don't know if we have to cut that. But a pot of mashed potatoes is fucking up there. Mm-hmm. So I'm not judging, but you asked me my answer.
All right.
And I don't mind sacrificing tots.
No, tots are fine.
I don't mind sacrificing French fries.
Yeah, exactly. Because I probably shouldn't be eating that many French fries anyway.
I don't mind sacrificing hash browns.
Right.
I don't mind sacrificing au gratins.
Home fries are amazing.
Home fries. I'm telling you, they're all good.
Yeah.
But I think I can get in there with a homemade chip. I'm not talking about a fucking Lay's. Although Lay's are.
Yeah.
Ruffles with Ridges are elite with onion dip. I'm talking about a homemade chip, and I think that's an okay one to ask too.
Yeah.
Fave beverage, 1 potato for the rest of your life. If someone offers you $10 million to eat nothing but fast food for a full year, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it's got to come from one chain, right? You're getting $10 million.
Right.
Nothing but fast food from one chain. First question is, do you do it? $10 million.
Absolutely.
I don't think anyone's going to say no. Right. I was wondering what that number should have been. Like I was going to say, what if somebody offers you 500,000?
No.
What if somebody offers you $1 million?
You're abusing your health.
Yeah.
You're absolutely abusing
exactly. You're supersizing me, right?
Yeah,
like Morgan Spurlock. 10 million's a no-brainer.
I read recently, like he cheated on that. And there was stuff not on camera that he was eating that was not.
Get the fuck out of here. Really?
Yeah. You can Google that and fact check me, but I did see that somewhere.
Really?
Yeah.
People don't know what we're talking about. Supersize Me. Morgan Spurlock was one of the first people to kind of do, I don't know, he's kind of a food influencer before there were food influencers. And so he ate nothing but McDonald's for a certain amount of time. And if the person said, do you want that supersized? He had to take it.
Yeah.
And at the end, they measured like his liver and enzymes and stuff like that. And he looked like
it was bad,
doughy and stuff. But to find out that he's a fraud, and we will check on that.
Please.
Then I'll talk to you about it next time you come on. So you would do that for 10 million.
Yeah.
What's the chain?
Whataburger.
Is it Whataburger?
Yes. As soon as you asked me that, that's the first one that came to mind.
Really?
Yes.
You're an extremely opinionated person.
Mm-hmm.
Could you be talked out of Whataburger? Can you think about it for breakfast? I don't know. Do Whataburger does
breakfast? Because
they do breakfast.
And then the other thing, they do late night. You can get from like.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, you can get it at very early. Actually, it's 24 hours. So
is it?
Yeah, if I recall correctly. Yeah, but so they have breakfast. Yeah, breakfast is served from like I forget what the hours are because I haven't eaten it in so long. But you can get breakfast at a bigger portion of the day than you can at some of these other chains.
Okay.
And I think it has enough variety that I wouldn't get bored. And I just think the actual hamburgers and fries and the food there is just delicious.
I've only been to a Whataburger once.
Yeah.
I think it's a Texas chain originally.
It's like Texas, Southwest portion of the country. Yeah, but primarily Texas.
They put one on campus in Tuscaloosa.
Okay.
At Alabama.
Oh, and their sweet tea's unbelievable.
They, Whataburger, if you know their logo, it's a W on a white background with an orange W going through it.
Yeah.
And the orange W is the same orange as either Texas or Tennessee.
Yeah.
So I believe the one on campus at Alabama is the only one that doesn't have orange in its branding.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool, right?
Cool, yeah.
Yeah. Like, the down horn. I shouldn't do this on that because apparently that's a big curse, but it's just to fuck with them. I don't even know if that survived on campus either. So Whataburger is an interesting choice to me. I don't know enough about it. I don't know what my answer would be. I got to figure it out because right away I go to I was going to say Chipotle, but the fall off in Chipotle has been fucking crazy.
But also Chipotle is pretty generic. It's like one meal. Whereas
one meal.
Are you going to eat Chipotle for breakfast?
I'd like to think that I'd want something healthier. So I was going to go something a little bit more high end, like kava or something like that. But I couldn't do grain bowls for a year.
Right.
Like I think if I did go the traditional Whataburger, name any of the places
I think you got to keep it to fast food and not like fast casual and Chipotle.
Oh yeah. So that's what I'll do.
Yeah. That's the fast food, not fast casual.
Yeah. My answer might be then Taco Bell.
Okay. That's a good answer.
because you can do chicken there and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They got a crazy
I
menu,
think
and
you
they
got
got
to
a
go with a
breakfast
menu
menu.
that has variety.
Yeah, and breakfast.
Yes, and
because you do need something to break it up. Because if you're going to go to a place that just has burgers or something like that, you will literally have your head in the oven within a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I'll take Whataburger. Name one restaurant you will not eat at, no matter how hungry you are. There a restaurant out there that you just see that people and you just don't understand it. You're like, I would never fucking eat there. Personal reasons, it just skeeves you. You've had a bad experience there once, so you'll never go back. What's one place that you wouldn't go to?
Oh, that's a really hard question.
That's a tough one.
I'm not a picky eater at all.
Right.
Wow.
I can come back to it.
Nope, I got the answer. And I'll have to Google the name. But I was stationed at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and there was an Italian joint right outside the gate. And I went in there and I'm like, I don't know if I trust this place. Let me get something easy.
Right.
And I ordered a meatball sub. Came out with like lettuce, tomato, ketchup. And I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
So probably whatever that restaurant is.
Whatever that one is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will tell you the place I'm still trying to find the culprit that did that to me in Mexico. And that's the place, Mexico City. That's a place that I'm not going to go back to.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's as good of a question. I don't know if everybody's going to have that in their quiver. If I send it to them beforehand, I think maybe they'd
but it's more fun if you just ask people on the spot.
I sent you a couple, but some of them I'll ask you on the spot, like frozen food. I go down the frozen food aisle.
Yes.
When I was a kid, there was stuff that I would pull off the shelves and I couldn't wait to throw in the oven when I got home.
Yeah.
There were certain frozen foods. I don't do that anymore for some reason, but what's one food in the frozen food aisle that's not ice cream? It's not any kind of dessert thing. Something that does need to have some sort of heat put to it. So it's
Hot
not.
Pocket.
You're a Hot Pocket guy.
I love Hot Pocket.
Really?
I love things that are all like mashed together. You know,
Do you?
You're getting a lot of different things in one bite. So I think Hot Pocket, and also with Hot Pockets, they're more or less going to deliver every time. You know what you're getting.
Right.
It's pretty standard across the board.
I'm going to have to get you out of here in 1 second. So I think I'm going to end on this.
Okay.
If you're okay with this, because you do have to go, right?
Yes.
Okay. You're a Catholic.
Yes.
For some reason, Jesus decided that bread was his body and wine was his blood when he was given the Eucharist.
Yeah.
There'll eventually be a church of cons. And when people go up to receive the Eucharist, what would you ideally want as your Eucharist? For like, let's say mine is a blinny with a little bit of caviar and an ice cold shot of vodka.
Right.
Yeah. Like what would be the Eucharist for cons? It's got to be something kind of bite-sized.
Right.
I mean, there are people who might be considered a little bit more on the white trashy side who would be like, I want a Monster Energy drink and a cheese doodle. Yeah. What mine's caviar and vodka. And I don't even know if that's mine, to be quite honest with you. What's the perfect bite to be for Eucharist at church? And anything is possible, right? So it's not like this is the logistics of it, because if your military brain gets into it, anything is possible. Because I don't think the Church of Cons is going to have a lot of members.
No.
What would it be? What's the Eucharist for the Church of Cons?
A bite of steak and a cold beer.
A bite of steak and or you know what it should be? I'm switching it. Those tiny little fucking bottles, Miller High Life that we get at all the things, right? Ponies. Everybody gets a pony of Miller High Life and a fucking steak tidbit.
Boom.
Oh, I'd never miss mass.
Yes.
All right, so this is the deal. It's 4th of July. This is Cons. He is a veteran. I appreciate your service. And it's a day that we celebrate America, and we celebrate America with some of the best food that we can find. I appreciate you coming in, Cons. I'll obviously have you back again whenever I need your guinea pig skills.
Always good to be here.
Yeah, make sure you drop in the 5-star reviews and drop in a question in your reviews, and we'll answer your questions on air. The last thing that I'm going to say is a real quick question from GMike32. Absolutely loving. You got to try this. I'm sure you get a ton of this, but I would love to see Willie come on with you.
Would love to get Willie back.
I saved this because Cons and I have been to Willie's parties. Willie Colon, he gave up a safety in the Super Bowl. I know he doesn't like when people say that, but Super Bowl winning offensive lineman with the Steelers. Then he had his career with the Jets.
That, people always like, but nobody remembers that. You're the guy who always remembers that.
I will always, and it's not even true. So it's one of those things. So I spoke to Willie last week about coming on when he's back in town from Mississippi. So it's probably going to be a couple of weeks from now, but I'll definitely have him on. Also, would love if you went over some of your pantry upgrades that you recommend for cooking at home. I will do that at some point for you guys, but if you want a quick answer to that, G Mike, I think if anyone's creating any kind of kitchen at home, one of the things that people don't do is they don't sharpen their knives. Ooh, and that's fucking terrible. So if you're friends with people in a restaurant, they get them done regular. If not, go to your local hardware store today and get your knives sharpened, because if you think that Henkel's block that someone gave you as a housewarming gift 15 years ago is still sharp if you use it just about every day, you're absolutely wrong. And sharpening a knife ups the ante with, you have to be careful with your fingers, but it ups the ante with the ease of cooking and your enjoyment of cooking. So I would think that that's a kitchen upgrade for just about anybody. I'll put some more thought into what you should have in your pantry. I got to let you go because you have somebody coming in with the Secret Service. This was Cons. This was You Got to Try This. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Lars.
Happy 4th of July, everybody.